Welcome back, friends. Today's story is the king's secret that shattered a kingdom. A single hidden truth can weigh more than 1,000 armies. We all have secrets, moments or truths we hide away, hoping they'll vanish like mist in the sun. But secrets are like shadows. They follow us until they swallow the light. In today's story, you'll see how one king's fear turned a whisper into a roar, shaking his whole kingdom. Once upon a time, in a realm where rivers ran with honey and wheat fields shimmered like gold, there lived a kind and beloved king. He wasn't the mightiest or the tallest or the most handsome. He was actually quite ordinary, but his heart was so pure and his mind so sharp that his people adored him. Farmers sang songs of his generosity, merchants praised his fairness, travelers told tales of his wisdom. All who met him left with a smile and a blessing for the king. But behind closed doors, when only his reflection stared back, his smile faded. Hidden beneath the royal robes and the velvet curtains of his bedroom was a secret so shameful that if it were revealed, he'd be mocked and maybe even dethroned. And so each morning when the sun peeked through the curtains, the king would clutch his curtains tighter, whispering a solemn oath, no one must ever know. He was afraid that the world, which seemed so bright and beautiful, would turn dark and cold if they knew his deepest secret. You see, our fears don't define us. They only become our master if we let them. Years went by, the king aged, but his secret stayed hidden, like a bird trapped in a gilded cage, beating its wings against the bars of silence. Then one fateful day, a new barber arrived at the castle. Usually these visits were festive occasions, full of jokes and friendly banter. But this time the atmosphere was thick with tension. When the king sat down, his usual cheerfulness gone, the barber knew instinctively that something troubled him. As he began to shave the king, the old man's hands trembled, and a tear rolled down his cheek. Before the barber could ask questions, the king stood up abruptly, pushed him away, and locked himself in his room. The king paced back and forth, wrestling with himself. Finally, he sat down heavily in a chair and spoke in a low voice. "You may leave the castle unharmed, but you must swear to keep my secret forever. Otherwise, I will be forced to punish you." The barber, confused but intrigued, swore to keep whatever secret the king told him hidden for the rest of his life. And so the king, revealing his darkest fear, whispered, "I have donkey ears." Yes, instead of the pointed ears of a human, the king had the floppy ears of a donkey. Since he was born, his parents kept this fact hidden from everyone, fearing ridicule. When he became king, they continued the charade. Every year they sent away the castle barbers, giving them generous gifts and strict orders to keep quiet. The barber was deeply shocked, but being young and ambitious, he didn't want to lose the chance to work at the castle. So he accepted the king's offer and agreed to keep the secret. But the weight of the king's shame pressed heavily on the young barber's conscience. Day after day, he grappled with the secret, not knowing what to do. The king, noticing the barber's troubled demeanor, inquired if he was ill. The barber lied, saying he couldn't bear the heat. Still, the king persisted, sensing there was more to the story. One evening, unable to contain himself any longer, the barber fled the castle and wandered deep into the woods. There he found a hollow tree, poured out his heart to it, confessing everything he knew. Overwhelmed with relief, he returned to the castle, feeling as though a huge stone had been lifted off his chest. But little did he know that his secret was far from over. In fact, from that moment, the secret grew like a wildfire, spreading quickly and turning the lives of the king and his people upside down. Every spring, reeds sprouted from the hollow tree. People passing by noticed the strange growth and started to make flutes out of them. And strangely enough, when they played the flutes, they didn't produce music, but rather words that echoed across the valley. "The king has donkey ears. The king has donkey ears." At first, villagers laughed and marveled at the talking flutes. But soon, like ripples spreading across a pond, the news reached the king's ears. His worst nightmare was coming true. He felt betrayed by the barber, angry at his parents for bringing him into this world, and above all, ashamed of himself. The king's inner turmoil was evident to all. His advisors urged him to address the issue, but fear paralyzed him. Should he confirm the rumors and risk losing his people's respect? Or should he deny it and appear dishonest? Either way, he knew his life would change forever. But sometimes our problems aren't solved by thinking about them, they're solved by acting, even if the path forward seems unclear. The king chose denial. He assembled his people, his voice booming with authority. "Whoever is spreading these lies aims to tarnish my honor and break my kingdom. Find out who it is and bring them before me." Many were punished, some lost their lives. But still, the whispers continued. The rumors spread beyond the kingdom's borders, reaching neighboring rulers. Alliances were broken. Wars erupted. The king found himself surrounded by enemies. The very ground that once cheered his name now trembled with the clash of arms. In his final moments, as he watched his kingdom burn and his people scatter, the king understood his greatest enemy wasn't the enemy outside, but the fear within. His failure to accept his uniqueness had fractured his bond with his people. Now stripped of power and dignity, he looked like any commoner. No one asked about the king's ears. No one cared about his hidden identity. In the end, it wasn't the secret that brought him down, but his reaction to it. He had let fear drive him to cruelty, blinding him to the humanity of those around him. The flames danced in his eyes, reflecting the ruins of his life's choices. And here, dear friends, is the mirror held up to our own lives. What is it that troubles you the most? Is it a mistake from the past, a scar you try to hide, or a dream you're afraid to pursue? Often the things that haunt us are like the king's ears, seemingly shameful, but in reality, merely different. What we hide in fear often destroys us more than what we reveal with courage. The real strength lies not in pretending we're perfect, but in embracing our imperfections. After all, it's our flaws that make us human, it's our weaknesses that make us relatable, and it's our struggles that make us wise. As we close this tale, remember your truth is your power. Owning it sets you free. And when you're free, you can help others find their freedom too. So ask yourself, what are you hiding from the world, and more importantly, from yourself? Are you keeping secrets that are eating away at your peace? Perhaps it's time to let go, to speak your truth, live it fully. Only then will you find the joy and freedom the king never knew. And with that, our story comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this tale and learned something valuable from it. And if you did, please show your support. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you these wonderful stories and life lessons. And hey, if you have a story you'd like to share or an author you'd like to recommend, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thank you for listening and for joining us on this journey through the timeless tales of wisdom and courage. Until next time, friends, may your days be filled with sunshine and your heart with warmth. Goodbye.